if a trans woman can get pregnant, whatever ceiling you want to call it, right, of trans women not being considered women kind of goes out the window. Hey everyone. So we decided to, with our triumphant return, we wanted to focus on something positive because a lot of the opening stuff and the last segment were kind of negative. And you know us, we like to sprinkle in some of the positives. I don't know how else to say this. This is just cool. Check it out. Can trans women get pregnant? Here's everything you need to know about womb transplants. The answer is maybe in the future if all goes well. A surgeon who carried out the UK's first womb transplant on a cisgendered woman has previously said similar transplants for trans women are probably about 10 to 20 years away. In February 2023, Imperial College London professor James Smith and his colleague Isabella Baroga from the Oxford Transplant Centre carried out a womb transplant on a married woman whose 40-year-old sister was willing to donate her own, having already given birth to 2 children. The 34-year-old recipient, who lives in England and wishes to not be named, received the transplant during an operation lasting more than 9 hours. Wow, she got mine beat. My vaginoplasty was like 5. In Oxford. It is hoped that in the future, womb transplants can be performed on trans women, giving them the ability to get pregnant and have a baby. But Smith said that the reality of this is still decades away. There's currently no technical feasibility to perform the operation on trans women due to the differences in the pelvic and vascular anatomy, the shape of the pelvis, and the issues with the microbiome. We'll come back to that part. The network of microorganisms that live in the human body, he explained. So one thing that would be really cool is if we can figure out how to do some sort of like surgery that allows you to give older trans women the ability to have the proper hip rotation and expansion that cis women get. If you don't start transitioning at like 20, that you're missing that boat. It's why I have no hips. I would really like to have something like that because that would actually probably correct for some of this. Obviously, you would need to figure out how to have the ability to create, an umbilical cord and all that stuff. There would need to be systems put in place or ways to figure out how to make that kind of stuff. But obviously, artificially, there's ways that probably could do that given time. The biome thing is super interesting because, at least with my surgery, the current research is because the way that the hybrid surgery I got at Henry Ford worked, they did the penile inversion for the front part, right? The vulva, mons pubis, etc. And they did in the back end of the vagina, they did peritoneal pull through, right? They took some of the internal stuff. So what's interesting is the data on this seems to say that the microbiome for trans women with this surgery is equivalent to that of cis women. In fact, taking, which I do, Culturelle, the probiotics that are made to, improve that area, that stuff. Not to mention, like other means by which to kind of keep that area healthier. For example, if you're having issues, certain discharges, you can get medicines, things like that. But basically, it works just the same. Like, it really does.
Flora and everything, yeah. As far as they can tell, it's the same deal. They're obviously, still doing research, but no, it's the same deal as far as they can tell.
And again, the question is how close do we have to get for it to matter? Right? According to the I newspaper, he said, "My own sense is if there are transgender transplants that are going to take place, they are many years off. There are an awful lot of steps to go through. My suspicion is a minimum of 10, 20 years. But in the grand scheme of things, 10, 20 years ain't crap.
Oh, yeah, especially for this big of a technology.
The team who performed the surgery hailed it as a massive success, with the recipient storing embryos in the hopes of undergoing in vitro fertilization later in 2023. A medical report published in the Fertility and Sterility Medical Journal in January 2023 said the first uterus transplant in a transgender female in the 21st century is anticipated to take place within the next few years, if not sooner. Dr. Narendra Kaushik, a surgeon in the Indian capital of New Delhi, said that May 2022 that transplanting a uterus into a transplant or trans woman is the future. So they're actually saying saying this will happen in the next few years. So there seems to be some debate as how hard this is going to be. Uterine transplants are currently rare, costly, and experimental surgeries that rely on donor organs. They are often done on people born without a uterus so they can become pregnant and give birth. The first successful womb transplant took place in the University of Gothenburg in Sweden in 2014. 2 years later, the operation was carried out successfully once more in the US. About 50 babies have been born worldwide as a result of womb transplants. And humans will find a way to make these kids marginalized. Just know it. Kaushik, who has 15 years of experience in gender affirming surgery, said, "We cannot predict exactly when this will happen, but it will happen soon. We have our plans and we're very optimistic." Based.
Well, and think about that. That's like a lot of people, even in our audience, could still benefit from that within their lifetime happily.
So, again, one of the things I think that's really interesting about this is that, like, yeah, I'm never going to utilize this, but for those that want this, like, we already know that the breast milk produced by trans women is not only equivalent, but in some cases, some studies show better than the milk produced by cis women. I'm not going to go over the data. Nominal Naomi has done a massive job on that. She go watch her shit. But the fact of the matter is that this type of surgery is a game changer, because one of the things that there are other things to consider is, one, there was a study that was put out where they were considering the idea of using sperm. And I don't remember what they exactly were doing, but it was basically they wanted to take a sperm and reconfigure it to become an embryo. And there seems to be some belief that that can happen. I need to find the study again. But I want you to think about this. If we can convert, let's call it, to an embryo, and we can transplant a womb inside of a trans woman, at some point, science is also working on the idea of lab-grown organs. That is, we take some of your DNA, we make you an organ. This is still science that's going on. They're trying to figure out how to do this stuff. Stuff like CRISPR and all that, from what I understand, is going to be helpful with that. So amazingly, think about this. 30 years in the future, you can have your own eggs. You can have a cloned womb. And you basically can make sure that that womb is not only not going to cause issues, right? It's not going to be rejected by the body. A lot of these different sciences combined together lead to some really cool outcomes if we think about them. I think it's really important, and so does Zizi on this, is that we
Mhm.
have to sometimes be willing to look at some of the positive stuff, because even though climate change is absolutely a drag, it sucks. It sucks. It sucks. It sucks. Discussions of the border suck. They suck. They suck. Israel Palestine is an awful topic. Think about it from this perspective. If a trans woman can't get pregnant, whatever ceiling you want to call it, right, of trans women not being considered women, kind of goes out the window. Because one of the major terms that TERFs use, and Contra made fun of this a lot, was the whole, you'll never squeeze life out of your sacred tunnel. To which she said, of course, there's nothing sacred about my tunnel. You can just cesarean out a baby out of a transplanted womb. There's really not any difference at that point.
There's the thing, like, birth is really important to somebody. Like, parenthood is really, really, important to some people. And this means that if you're trans, you now have a much, much easier and more affirming way to, have those same. I that's super fucking exciting. Yeah, no, sometimes you gotta take your W's because otherwise shit don't do that here.
Yeah.
We have hope.
But God did not make you with that uterus. But here's the thing: we just saw about a woman who was born without one. Like at some point, this has to fall apart. Like they're going to keep their culture war nonsense going, but there's not really much you can do with this as
The
far as
thing is
pushback
that
on it. And again, beyond just making it so trans people can't have kids, right? You can just legislate that into the ground. But this is a thing. Go ahead, kisses. The
I don't
stained
know what
glass
I'm
ceiling.
saying. Um. Oh yeah, barring any legislation, like it still shows that no, there's still a lot of professionals, a lot of scientists, a lot of really fucking smart people on our side. Like I know the average Republican is an idiot and hates us, but like I'll take the smart people, figuring out how to do these surgeries. I'll take those folks. Oh,
Yeah. So again, we just wanted to share this real quick as just like a positive, as something cool that's happening. Again, womb transplants based. Should be a
mm-hmm.
thing. Ah,
True. Improvements are being made in the world. We
good
got some
stuff.
shit to look forward to.
Yep. We'll see you in the next one.
Mm-hmm.